You know, I've been doing this job for quite a while now, so it is pretty rare for a vehicle to truly surprise me. I know usually going into it what to expect, but this 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor really has surprised me because it's a whole lot better than I was expecting. Now, I'm going to be going over a lot of what there is to know about this vehicle. We haven't driven this new generation Ranger, but then we also have the top-end performance off-road version. So we're going to be talking about what's new with the 2024s, as well as what you're getting when it comes to the Raptor. Now, this vehicle, as tested, is $84,000 and change in Canada, about $60,000 in the US. It's a much better deal if you live south of the border. Under the hood is a 3-liter twin-turbo EcoBoost V6 engine producing 405 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. This uses a 10-speed automatic transmission, and the only way this comes is in 4x4 mode. You cannot get a two-wheel drive Raptor, and that's kind of the way you want. If you're going off-roading, you gotta have four-wheel drive. Now, there's quite a bit that makes the Ranger Raptor different from a regular Ranger. This has a forged aluminum double A-arm suspension with 2.5-inch Fox Live valve shocks, and then the back end has a Watts Link rear with a trailing arm and a 2.5-inch Fox Live valve system. We have the optional 17-inch beadlock wheels. And then what makes the Raptor different, obviously, aside from the engine and suspension over a regular Ranger, is the reinforced front frame rails. We also have the shock towers that have been reinforced, the rear shock brackets, and the suspension mounting points. You need that if you're going to be doing hardcore off-roading that this vehicle is capable of. Now, there are plenty of reviews out there showing how the Ranger Raptor does on an off-road course. I don't have an off-road course, so we're going to be talking specifically about how this vehicle performs on pavement, because most people are going to be buying these vehicles and still driving it. Even if they do off-roading, you still got to get to that off-roading area. So you're going to be doing a lot of on-road driving, and maybe you're like me, you don't really do off-roading, but you want the performance and the looks that comes with this truck. We're going to be talking about how it is. So let's start going around and going over some of the key features of the 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor. All right, so let's go over some of the features that come on the Ranger Raptor. Specifically, I mentioned the suspension. This vehicle has what Fox calls live valves. They're an internal bypass system that changes the dampening based off the drive mode. So if you're in Baja mode, for example, the vehicle should have a lot more compliance going over bumps, whereas if you're in sport mode, things do firm up. I've kept the vehicle in sport mode essentially the entire time I've been driving around, and I have felt that difference. In fact, there's a lot of different changes you can make with the vehicle, including the suspension, the steering, the exhaust, the engine performance, the transmission performance, and there is a pretty noticeable difference between all of those modes. I do keep this pretty much in sport mode all the time, and you do feel that. I mean, it feels very stiff when you're turning, and I like it. So you can customize the way that you want, and you can also show on the screen what drive modes and what configurations of the engine and transmission and everything are in which mode to give you a better idea of what's going on essentially with your truck. So when it comes to the cosmetics of the Ranger Raptor, we have the large Ford grille up front. That's something that we've seen with the F-150 Raptors. It's become pretty iconic when it comes to this. A lot of people with lower trims are putting on these types of grills, so we're seeing it now on the Ranger. We have all steel bumpers, both front and back, as well as flared fenders with functional vents, so they do allow a little bit of airflow to come out of them. 33-inch BF Goodrich all-terrain K03 tires. We also have a thick front bash plate made of high-strength steel, as well as dedicated engine, transfer case, and fuel tank shield. So again, if you do off-roading, you may be going places that have some rocks, some large rocks. You don't want to damage those vital components. You do have some protection underneath the vehicle. Now, on the inside, we have magnesium alloy flappy paddles, and we also have the Code Orange Raptor badging, as well as the Ford Performance seats, and then they're accented with that Code Orange throughout. I think they look pretty cool. The seats are pretty comfortable, even for a big guy like me. There's enough support and then enough adjustment. I think the only thing that really is annoying when I get in and out of the vehicle, mostly in, are the massive steel steps on the side. And I've talked about this with other mid-sized pickup trucks. Just because I'm a tall guy, I'm a big guy, they're pretty high up, so they don't really do anything for me. They're just too high up, and I get it. It is an off-road vehicle. You want to keep them as close to the body of the vehicle and the frame as possible, but they're pretty useless. So if they were not on the truck, I would actually have an easier time getting in because I don't use them. I'm stepping aside from them, and it's just an extra like 5-6 inches that makes it a little bit difficult to get in. Now with this generation Ranger, things have gotten a little bit more grown up. The design is a little more in line with what the F-150 has to offer, especially the new one that we just featured. Up front, C-shaped LED daytime running lights with full LED lighting. And the taillights too have also been updated. Not quite the same as we saw in the 24 Ford F-150, but I do like the look of these taillights. They're very stylish. LED, they work great. Everything is nice about them. Now the truck itself is about 2 inches longer for the wheelbase, as well as a 2-inch wider track. So that gives you better road mannerisms when you're driving around, and it allows for a little bit more room in the bed. In fact, Ford says that they've improved the bed on this truck to allow for an ATV to actually fit in here, just based on the way that they've put the wheel well. So I don't have an ATV to test it out, but the bed is pretty functional. Quite a bit of space in there. This one doesn't have the spray in or drop in bed liner, so it has gotten a little beaten up. I always recommend getting a bed liner. Now, as of 2024, at least right now, all these Rangers are going to be coming as a Super Crew with the 5-foot bed. This is what this truck is configured as, but Ford does say, or at least there have been rumors, that a Super Cab, that's the smaller cab with a 6-foot bed, will be coming sometime down the road. Now that's different from what Chevrolet, GMC have been doing. Most of these new mid-size trucks are only coming in one configuration. It just makes it easier for them to sell them because there's less to configure. You basically have one option. So we'll see if that actually ends up coming true. But I want to talk about a couple things back here first. We do have an easy open lift gate, so easier to get in. We've got some straps here to make it a little bit easier when it comes down, plus a shock on the right side there. And much like we saw with the F-150, we do have some limited sort of work attire for this truck. So we do have a built-in tape measure along the lip of the tailgate, and we also do have these C-clamps here. I don't have the bed liner, so I don't know if that would actually add anything to the tailgate portion of it. Probably would, but it's functional enough. We do have 2 outlets in the back, so if you want to power some stuff, you've got the options there, and then your LED lights in the back to help, plus some little grab handles. Because this is the Raptor, we don't have the side steps built into the bumper to make it easier to get in. They're replaced with the steel ones, making it a little bit more off-roady, but just a little bit less functional to get in back here. But I still think it's pretty good. Overall, you're getting a lot when it comes to a new Ranger. I mean, it's pretty much in line with what trucks had 10, 15 years ago. So it's nice to see that the trucks have gotten bigger. This is quite a bit taller, obviously, because it's the off-road version. So it really does feel like you're driving a full-size truck, despite it being a mid-size. Now, there's a couple other things that have changed for 2024. On the inside specifically, we have the 12.4-inch digital gauge cluster, a 12-inch infotainment system, kind of similar to what we've seen on the Mustang Mach-E. It is a portrait style. I've had some issues with it, and there's a little bit of lag, and we'll talk about that a bit on the road. Then we also have the navigation system, wireless Apple CarPlay, 360-degree cameras, as well as a wireless phone charger. It's kind of hit or miss. Didn't really do too much with my iPhone 12. Again, like most of them that we've been testing recently, just sort of overheats my phone, but it will charge it up a little bit. Now, you won't mistake this for a regular Ranger because there is quite a bit of Raptor branding on this. We have a physical badge on the back. It's very nice, very three-dimensional, looks cool. We've got the stickers on the side that say that it's Raptor. It's also stamped into the steel running boards. And then we have a black Ford badge. We mentioned that with the F-150 XLT I just drove. This one is black, but it's still got the chrome around it, so it looks a little bit more normal. I'm still thrown off by the flat black and white that we saw in the F-150. But we also have a $1,000 graphics package, which I really think is worth it. I might not usually, but in this case, I really do like these digital camo kind of stickers that go on the tailgate, both sides of the truck, and then a little bit on the front hood. I think it looks cool. I mean, like, just adds a little bit more to the truck. I've seen a couple of these Rangers without the sticker package. This is definitely the way to go. Now, before we take the truck on the road, I want to talk about the competition, or really the lack thereof, because there isn't an off-road truck that also is a performance truck. General Motors has the Chevrolet Colorado ZR2 as well as the GMC Canyon AT4X. James drove both of those vehicles, and in fact, he drove the ZR2 Bison, which would be the closest to this vehicle. It has a lot of the off-road stuff. You know, you got a lifted kit, bigger tires, skid plates, stuff like that. I mean, it's a $10,000 option on that truck, but you're not getting the same sort of performance and oomph that you would get from the Raptor. Yeah, that truck does have 430 pound-feet of torque, but the horsepower is lower. It's a 2.7 liter 4-cylinder engine. Not quite as much power, not quite as much oomph out of the back either. The exhaust on this sounds pretty decent, but the Canyon and Colorado do get a couple extra features that this truck doesn't have. Ventilated seats, a sunroof. Those are kind of nice to have. But then for off-roading, it does have an under-truck camera system to allow you to see what's going on underneath the vehicle, as well as spray washers to actually clean off any mud or dirt that might get on those cameras. So those are cool things to have. And then even when we drove the Toyota Tacoma a few months ago, when I did a quick first drive with that Trail Hunter trim, again, more off-road oriented, had a lot of accessories from Toyota. It just had a little bit more features in terms of what you would want from day-to-day living, including a panoramic sunroof. So there are some things you can get on other trucks, but you can't get everything. So it ultimately comes down to what you want. Do you want the performance and off-road? Then the Raptor's the way to go. If you're more interested in just having an off-road capable vehicle or an adventure-ready vehicle, then either the GMC or Chevrolet or the Toyota Tacoma will do a good job of it. But I want to take this on the road now. I want to tell you about how I've experienced this Ranger Raptor and why I've been so surprised as I've been driving around in this truck and everything else about it as we hit the road in the 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor. All right, so I know that nobody who's buying this truck cares about fuel efficiency, but we did do our test loop. 10 liters per 100 kilometers is what this did. I actually did keep it in like normal mode, kind of. So it's not the most efficient. I suppose if you do drive it a little bit better, yeah, might get better fuel efficiency with it, but it's really not the point of driving this truck. You really do want to keep it in sport mode, which I always have it in. I also always do put this into the Baja mode. It says it's for off-road use only, which we clearly are doing, right? This is an off-road course. What is a road anyway? So let's talk a little bit about this truck, because like I said, I've been surprised. I've been pleasantly surprised by this. I've had a lot more fun driving around with this than I had originally expected to, because, you know, it's a mid-sized truck. I'm a big guy, I like bigger trucks, but this has really been fun. You know, the performance is absolutely there. This thing is fast. 405 horsepower is nothing to laugh at. And honestly, when I'm driving this, I keep it, like I said, sport suspension, sport steering, sport engine, manual shift mode, Baja exhaust. If I'm coming off the line at like a stop sign, you can hear the rear wheels chirp almost every single time. And I'll see if I can get that for you a little bit on camera here, but yeah, it's pretty quick. The exhaust sounds pretty good as well. I don't know if any of it is really being pumped in through the speaker system here. We have a B&O audio system. It sounds decent enough. And that's going to be the big difference between the Tacoma or the Chevrolet and GMCs, is those just have regular exhausts, right? They don't have anything too exciting. Whereas this, you know, I mean, you're getting both an off-road vehicle and a performance vehicle. With the other ones, they're just off-road. Oh, yeah, it sounds good. Now, it's funny, there's like a shift line. It's about 5,200 RPM, because the transmission is a little slow. That is one downside to this. Because the transmission's just a little sluggish, you gotta shift almost 1,000 RPM before the red line, because that's how long it takes that transmission to actually shift into gear. But once you get over that, it's fine. Now we're in two-wheel drive mode, because that's kind of the most fun. You know, if you're going for total performance, total off-the-line performance at least, then yeah, you might want to keep it in four-wheel drive. But I will be doing a bit of a launch once we have some clear air in front of us. But for now, you can just hear it. Ooh, yeah. It sounds good. I mean, you know, it could be better though. I'll admit that, you know, when you shift down, nothing exciting. There's no blurbles or gurbles or anything like that. It's just kind of blip, like, you know, kind of forgets that it's an exhaust system that should sound pretty good. You know, so when you're going up in range, you hear it. When you come down in range, it's like, So, you know, a couple small things there. I'm sure that, you know, if you're really into this truck, you'll probably buy an exhaust kit, because that's how you get the most performance, most excitement out of this truck, is to put something aftermarket on it. And I'm sure there's going to be some options. So that's something to consider. But, you know, so far I've been pretty happy with it. We'll talk a little bit about the interior before we get to some Mexico driving. But like I said, the infotainment system has been a little sluggish, specifically with the 360 cameras. I'll hit the button if I'm in like a drive-through or something, and it won't come on. I have to kind of cancel out of it and then do it again for it to pop up. I had a couple issues with that. You know, the system isn't super responsive, And I've had a couple small issues with Apple CarPlay where it just disconnects halfway through the drive. So a couple small issues with that, but like 30% of the controls are through the screen. So you just keep that in mind. And then things like your heated seats and heated steering wheel, that's through there. Again, something that we mentioned outside, you don't get ventilated seats on this. That's a bit of a bummer. And I do miss the sunroof. That would have been a nice thing to have. I don't know why they don't put it on here, because again, the competition has it. So if it's an important feature for you, then you might not consider the Ranger. I mean, maybe everything else about this truck is good enough to kind of make up for it, but for me at least, I would have liked to have seen it, because I do like having a sunroof, even if it is kind of toasty out. It gives me the option at least to close it if I want to, whereas I don't have a choice. There's no roof. And that's why our second camera here is in more of a POV position, because I don't have anywhere else to mount it. Now, another aspect of what has made this vehicle so surprising to me is the actual ride and quietness. Typically with off-road spec vehicles, and I'm thinking specifically of the Chevrolet Silverado Trail Bosses. Those have off-road tires, and they're so noisy. Like, you're driving the truck and it sounds like you're driving with almost like studded tires. They're so loud and annoying. This has off-road tires. I don't notice it. I mean, like, I think that's been one of the major benefits of driving this truck for me, is I don't hear any excess road noise, which I would expect from a off-road spec truck. I've been pretty impressed with that. And then even the ride has been pretty good. So, like, I haven't done it, but like I said, if we put the vehicle into normal mode, change the steering into normal, and then even if I put the exhaust, I wouldn't put it in quiet, because who cares? But if I put it in normal, suspension's still in sport. No, we want to go into normal mode here. So everything normal. I'm going to turn off manual shifting. I just want to see how this vehicle is by comparison, because I haven't really done it. It was on the highway for the most part when we were doing our test loop. Exhausts, still got a bit of a note. Obviously, the truck still got performance. But yeah, you can feel right away. I mean, like, the steering is a little less firm. Again, the suspension, like, I can tell that it has changed it up, so it's just a little bit more forgiving as you go over some of these tiny little bumps here. And it's good. I mean, like, living with this on a daily basis would be fine. If you're somebody who doesn't necessarily want to be making noise and, straining your muscles all the time, turning around with the truck, then yeah, this is great. But we're not here for that. We're here for sport. We're here for sport, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to put everything back into sport mode, because that's the way it should be. We get this back into Baja mode. Come on. Like, that's why you guys are here. But what you really are here for is to see how this thing performs. Now, I'm going to keep it in automatic mode, because I told you with the shift line, it just doesn't work that well for me. But bring the vehicle to a stop. Yeah, you had a lot of tire spin there. Oh, come on. Like, that's fun. That's fun. I like it. Now, if I put it into 4 high, we'd have no spin, because all 4 wheels would be going. But, oh, buddy, like, it just sounds good. It's got the performance. I mean, like, this is the truck to get if you're looking for a good all-around experience. And that's why I say it's really surprised me. It's not perfect. This isn't a perfect truck by any means, but it does have a lot going for it. And that's the thing. You're going to be buying a truck like this because you want something that is fun to drive. It isn't going to be perfect. But if you're looking for something that has this level of performance, this level of power, the looks, I think that this is the best looking midsize truck on the market. This and the Tacoma, that Trailhunter we drove looked pretty cool. But I'll give you one more launch here. I mean, like, at least from the inside here, it sounds like a race car. It just, I love it. It's so good. It's just really enjoyable. So there you go. We got a couple launches out of it. And yeah, I'm sure I could get the tires going if I wanted to, but we're not here to burn out these off-road tires. We're here just to have some fun. But yeah, this has been a good truck to drive around in. So if you're looking for something different, this is definitely it. It's not perfect. It's got its flaws, just like most vehicles today. Nothing's ever perfect. There are some pretty, big missing features, like I mentioned, but you're getting quite a bit. And then the other thing too is price. I mean, this is an $84,000 truck. The way that this is configured, this is essentially the same as the truck that we just drove, the F-150. If you take off a couple of the options, I mean, like, this is really expensive for a mid-sized truck, but this isn't going to be a volume seller, right? It's meant for people that want something unique. So you might only see one or two of them on the road here or there, and most people who are going to be buying the Ranger will buy some other variation, some other trim of it that's a little bit more livable. But for those who want something that is unique, is different, I mean, there's nothing out, right? Like, nobody else makes both off-road and performance. This is it, and I love it. Oh yeah, like, it sounds so good. So there you have it, folks. As always, we're here in the comments. If you have any questions about the Ford Ranger Raptor, please let us know. We'll get back to you. We also invite you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Give a like to the video and share it online. If you've got some friends, family who like watching car stuff, maybe they're interested in what we got going on here, you can let them know. But thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.